Welcome, my friends. I'm Dave Champion, and this is my supercalifragilisticexpialidocious co-host, Bill Carnes, and welcome to Totally Unprepared.
I was totally unprepared for that.
That's right. Before we get going, we've got a lot to talk about today. Because you were gone for, what, 3 weeks?
Something like that, yeah.
I'm behind on acknowledging businesses that do a great job, so give me a second to get onto that.
Acknowledge on.
All right. First of all, Westar, the animal rescue that's over at the very end of Game Bird. Of course, it's blistering hot out.
It's at the end of Mance.
I'm sorry, Mance,
off
you're
of
correct.
Pahrump Valley Boulevard.
Thank you.
Why do I know this? One of my dogs came from
Yeah,
there.
I misspoke. Yeah, as did both of mine.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me. Anyway, it's blistering hot out there, and Terry does a fantastic job. He takes great care of the dogs, but those dogs need a home, so this is the time when it's really uncomfortable out. This is the time to provide a loving home for those animals, so I want to encourage you to go over to Westar, again, at the end of Mance, not Game Bird, just what is that, west of...
Pahrump Valley Boulevard.
Pahrump Valley Boulevard.
Just so you know, Westar is a no-kill shelter.
Yes.
They've held on to some dogs for years, many years, because they will not put them down. They also have a thrift store there, so if you're the type of person that goes to thrift stores, they've got one there that helps support the business. And they take donations, not just financial, but also in food. Yeah. So sometimes when we're feeling a little bit flush, I'll take over even a couple 100 pounds of food over there.
Awesome. Good job, Bill. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The other one that I want to acknowledge is Pet Depot, which is over, how would you accurately describe that?
It is near Petrick Park in the Albertson Shopping Plaza, right next door to Little Caesars Pizza. More people are going to know that than anything else.
That's probably true. And John, the owner, he knows more about animals than I've ever learned in my life and ever will learn in my life.
Yeah, and he's got high-end, very high-quality food.
Yes, he does. At a reasonable price.
He's got medications over there.
He does.
They also have an off-site grooming, if I remember right.
Somebody he's associated with. I don't think it's his shop.
Yeah. But he's got access to that. He's just a great guy.
And
great
a wealth of information.
Oh, yeah,
wealth
absolutely.
Of information. All right. So, Pet Depot and Westar. It's an animal acknowledgement today.
It is. And we actually, our entire first segment is dedicated to us by one single industry.
Do tell.
The policing industry.
Oh, yeah. Yes. You know, and
we have 4 stories we're going to try to get to in this, all from the policing industry.
Yeah, and you know, I hope people understand, especially with our backgrounds, because every once in a while somebody will accuse me, and I'm probably you too, of being anti-cop.
I never actually get that. I know that you get that, but I don't get that. I know that when we both just draw attention to ridiculously stupid things that have happened that oftentimes cause injury and or violate people of their rights and or cost people their lives. Yeah. Because one cop makes a stupid decision, and all too often, as in one of these stories, a bunch of others fall in behind to cover it up. Yeah. That's a major problem.
And I think when sociologists and historians look at this country, say 30 or 40 years from now, look back at this era, the awakening of the American public to, thanks to video, of how law enforcement actually functions and the fact that the bar of conduct needs to be raised is going to be one of the things they look back at this point in history as a major significant change in society, is when society finally said, no more of this.
Yeah, and so the people that are out there that'll be crying, 99.9% of all cops are good, it's the very, very few bad apples, and they all risk their lives every day. You are ignorant if you're saying or subscribing to any of that, because 99.9% of no industry is good. 90% of no industry is good. You won't find 90% of doctors that are good. No. There's no industry that's like that. And Dave and I have worked in this industry. I mean, this is not the case. And to say that first responders and cops risk their lives every day, that's total BS. That it really is. You could be called upon to put yourself to respond to a situation where you could put yourself into jeopardy of some kind, but that you clock in and you risk your life every day. That is so ridiculous when you have a lot of cops that spend 20, 25, 30, 40 years on the job and they're still alive at the end, yet they're working 250 days a year times that 20 to 40 years, and they never once died. Is their luck so good that every single day they put their life on the line and never once was it snatched?
Yeah.
That just pales in my mind how people could stick to that mantra because they just don't know. But the video that's coming out is going to show a lot of this. For instance,
yes,
the girl who's in a police substation.
Yep. Now, one of the things I think people need to understand is whenever the public sees a cop doing something that he shouldn't be doing, especially the cop worshipers, the very first comment that they make is, well, if they had just done what the officer said, or if they had just cooperated, as if the people that police come in contact with are well-adjusted, rational people. Sometimes they are, a lot of times they're not. So to say that a police officer...
to say that the police officer is a well-adjusted, rational person at the time of the stop.
Right.
Which oftentimes that is not the case, even on simple things such as like stopping you for a speeding ticket or not coming to a full stop at a stop sign or something.
Right. But my point is that this excuse where if they had just followed the cop's instructions, or if they had just done what the cop said, or if they had just acted like I would act in the same circumstances, this wouldn't have happened. Most of the suspects the cops come in contact with are not of that mindset. Nor, and here's the critical point, does the fact that they're not obedient or they're not stable or they wouldn't make the same decisions you or I would make does not justify the misconduct of the officer.
Not at all.
Period. It does justify appropriate conduct. It does not justify inappropriate conduct, which is in this case. A gal is in the police station. She's handcuffed in front of herself. Okay? And she's...
Because she has a couple of outstanding traffic warrants.
Correct. She was arrested for a couple of traffic matters. And we don't know what went on in the station, but what we do know is that she sprints out the front door of the police station.
She's 19 or 20 years old, thin, wearing shorts and a T-shirt, I think flip-flops or Converse or something.
Probably all of 115 pounds soaking wet.
If that, yeah, if that.
And here comes Bubba, waddling out after her. What would you say he was, 3 feet behind her?
I would say he was maybe 4 to 5 feet behind her, but at least triple her weight.
Yeah, we meant to have the video available for you, but time constraints prevented us today. There were some mitigating circumstances. So
we can get away with everything with a name totally unprepared.
That's right.
So there you go.
So he tasers her from about 4 feet behind her. Had he put on this much speed, he could have just reached out and grabbed her.
Yeah.
Okay. But instead he tases her. Wham! She goes down like she was shot dead through the head.
Yeah, she flips around and wham! Just literally, she's in a straight line and 90 degrees slams her head into the pavement, which is the driveway.
And because of that, she is now, she's dead now, but for quite some time, she was in a persistent vegetative state, and then she died. Now,
because of traffic warrants.
Now, the police apologists, the copsuckers, what they're going to say is she was running away. She deserved it, okay? The fact that she was not rational does not mean she deserved to die. Furthermore, this is the really important part of this story. The courts have said time and time again, tasers are not to be used unless somebody's safety is at risk. The officer, the officer's partner, the public, and I suppose in certain circumstances even the suspect. Okay? For instance, if a suspect was going to commit suicide, it might be appropriate to taser them. However, it is not an obedience tool. The courts have said this loud and clear. It's not a I don't feel like running a little faster tool, okay? Because it is, they used to refer to it as less than lethal. Bill just informed me today at lunch that now they've adopted the phrase less lethal, okay?
Because people die from it. Here's a perfect example. So not directly, but indirectly. She died from being tased. Right,
so it's less lethal than being shot, for instance, in the face. But it's not non-lethal. And the courts have said you cannot use it as an obedience tool. Somebody's safety has to be at risk. In this case, no one's safety was at risk. This overweight Bubba police officer didn't want to put on a little bit of extra effort to reach out and grab her. She was, like I said, 115 pounds soaking wet, handcuffed in front. She was not going to be a threat to anybody's physical safety, at least no significant threat. Okay?
You know, if you're in the military, you have to pass certain physical qualifications to be in the military and to stay in the military.
Correct.
But in the police department, unless you're in a specialized unit, you don't. And to get this fat-ass 340-pound cop who tases somebody, and we've all seen it. Every department has them, with rare exception. These big fat bastards that are out there that just gave up on any sort of sense of physical fitness because I got a badge and a gun, I don't need that. You will submit or I'll shoot you with my taser or hit you with a baton, whatever. These fat sweat hogs are an embarrassment to everybody else that are out there, and they cause situations like this, and people die.
Yes.
Because they get hurt and they die because these guys are not in the physical condition to do their job. And they are a disgrace. If you're one of those fat-ass cops, you are a disgrace, and you should get out of the business.
And what they do is they tend to become violent faster because they feel if it really turns out to be a knockdown drag-out, they're not in the condition to sustain that fight.
Oh, no.
So what they do is somebody says, well, wait a second, boom! They immediately become violent because they don't want to allow things, what is in their mind, to degrade, which might, with an officer who is fit and thus confident, it might be, yes, go ahead, share with me what you wanted to say. But the overweight guy, you better listen to me right now, because he can't risk letting things get even the slightest bit sideways because he's so non-confident in his abilities.
This kind of takes me back to when you and I were in the industry. We didn't have tasers.
Correct.
So in a situation like this, if you couldn't chase a girl down, what do? Let the radio catch her, right? I didn't get into I got into one foot pursuit. And the reason I didn't get into foot pursuits, Dave, is because I had a radio and a whole bunch of other cops out there to call. And they're all excited to back up on the radio. I was excited, hey, I'm in a foot pursuit, or I'm in a whatever, something's going on, I need backup. You're there.
Right.
Hey, the adrenaline rush that we're all into this for. Yeah. So suffice it to say, we're only going to get through this one story, this segment, when we want to get through 4. So what do you say we bring up the other 3 in segment 4?
Done. Absolutely.
Because this is something that we like to keep on the front burner. Not that we're trying to keep it on the front burner. We like to get into other stuff and have some diversity in the show. But there's so much of this crap that's out there. We've kind of, without talking about it, decided to keep these things going so that we can try to affect some real change.
Yeah, people are needlessly dying like this 20-year-old girl.
Yeah.
I mean, did she do things absolutely right? No. She was a bonehead.
But
bonehead doesn't mean a death sentence.
A whole bunch of these type of things that don't necessarily lead to death that happen every day, and we need to get it stopped. We'll be right back.
Oh, am I going to cheese some people off today? What is up with voters not knowing or not caring what a candidate has said or done? I have to admit, I've broken the totally unprepared paradigm today. I am, to a small extent, prepared. I made some notes, so you might see me looking down. I want to make sure that I keep this linear because there's a lot of information. All right, show of hands. How many people out there believe that if you're going to walk into the polling place and push a selection of a particular candidate, you should know what the candidate has said and stands for? Anybody? Yeah. Okay, that's pretty much everybody, right? I think we can all agree on that. So I want to talk about whether that's really going on. Now, I want to stress at the outset, I'm not talking about the left-right paradigm. I could care less whether you support Donald Trump, you support Hillary, you support Stein, you support Johnson. I'm talking about facts. What a particular candidate stands for. Do you know what they stand for? Do you know what your selected candidate has said? Now, I recognize that before I launch into this, it's a very emotional subject. That's why I said I'm going to anger a lot of people. But more to the point, I recognize I'm not going to change anybody's vote. I get that, right? Because people, they say, this is my guy or my gal. And if that candidate were to stomp to death an 18-month-old infant right in front of the television cameras, most people wouldn't change their vote. They'd justify it because they've already decided this is my guy. This is human nature, as sick as it is, in my opinion at least. Secondly, it is not my place to tell you who to vote for. I wouldn't even presume in a million years to tell you who to vote for. Not my business. My business is to tell you whom I might vote for and why, or to tell you why I think some other candidates might not be a good choice, but I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. Never. In a million years would you ever hear me do that. That would be pretentious beyond imagination in my mind. Now, what is the number one complaint that people have about Barack Obama, those on the right? they complain that he's done things that are unconstitutional. That's the one I hear all the time. He has no respect for the Constitution. Now, the reason that I chose to do this today is for the last several weeks, I've been hearing people say things on social media that Donald Trump loves liberty and loves the Constitution. Now, I said the T word. So before I launch, I want you to know, again, I'm not for or against Donald Trump, for or against Hillary in this discussion. I'm not for or against Trump. I'm not for or against Hillary. I'm not for or against anybody. Facts, right? So when people say that Donald Trump loves liberty and the Constitution, I would like to share some things with you so that we can find out whether that is an accurate assessment. Would you not agree that accuracy in the facts are important when voting for a presidential candidate? I don't care which candidate it is. I'm just happen to talk about Trump today because those statements are so at odds with the truth. Now, I want to go through some of the things he said. He says he wants, and I quote, I want to open up libel laws, is the quote, okay? So that people can sue the press. First of all, there are no federal libel laws, okay? So as president, that's a meaningless statement. I don't know if people are aware of that. All libel laws are state laws. The president has absolutely no say over state law at all. Secondly, bumps into a little thing called the First Amendment. So when people say he's down with the Constitution, number one on the list, bumps smack into the First Amendment. There's a reason libel laws don't go after media except in the most extreme cases, called freedom of the press. Yep. That's not exactly, he said specifically so that people could more easily go after the media. That's adverse to the First Amendment. He said he wants to use executive orders to impose the death penalty on cop killers. Okay? Executive orders must be in compliance with existing statutory law. So, for there to be such an executive order, there would have to be a statute authorizing that. And if there was a statute authorizing that, there would be no executive order. Absent a statutory enactment that would empower the president to do that, any executive order that would do that would be thoroughly, we're not even talking about a little bit, immensely, thoroughly, off the charts, unconstitutional. But somehow the supporters say he is all down with the Constitution and liberty. He loves waterboarding, that's a quote, and would approve of torture. Now, this whole torture thing started after 9/11, most specifically by a legal opinion written by a guy named John Woo, who's an attorney with the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Counsel. And that is what George Bush relied upon to authorize the torture that was used during his administration. However, since then, the Office of Professional Responsibility of the Department of Justice has concluded that, quote, the memorandum underpinning the torture debate were so flawed, misleading, and outcome-oriented as to constitute professional misconduct. And the Department of Justice has since rescinded its backing of those memos. They've taken the memos back and said, no, it's total BS, okay? Congress has also enacted 2 different statutes that said that administration, the president, may not rely on opinions from the DOJ anymore to torture and have banned torturing. But yet Donald Trump says, I'm going to torture, okay? By the way, that's a violation of treaties that the United States has entered into, and treaties, according to the United States Supreme Court, have the full force and effect of the Constitution. So when people claim he loves the Constitution and then he's going to violate a treaty that has the same force and effect of the Constitution, he's not loving the Constitution, okay? He says, and I quote, I support legislation which allows NSA to hold bulk metadata. Problem is, the highest court in the land that has reviewed that, which is the Second Federal Appellate Court, said it's unconstitutional. But Trump supports it. How do you support something the courts have said is unconstitutional and claim that you're all about or your supporters claim is all about the Constitution? He says he wants to force Apple to build its products in America. Really? That's all about liberty. Where is the authority for the executive branch to force any company to build their products anywhere? And people look at him and say he's all about liberty? Wow. On the issue of abortion, back in March of this year, Trump said women should be punished for seeking abortions. which in the current landscape, which will probably be the landscape for all time, the current constitutional landscape in this country is that it is 100% lawful to seek out an abortion. Now, he eventually backed off that statement and said that they should go after only the doctors, but that's also a violation of the Constitution. Because when the Supreme Court makes a decision saying that a particular type of law or action is unconstitutional, and you say you want to do it, that's violative of the Constitution. Whatever side of the abortion issue you're on is not the question. The question is the chief executive trying to violate the constitutional landscape as it exists today? The answer is yes. His complete ban on Muslims under United States Code, Title 8, Section 1182F, okay? People say, well, he has the authority to do that because Congress granted him the authority that he can bar any particular class from immigrating, okay? However, Congress does not have the authority to grant permission to do things that are unconstitutional. So the statutory authority to do that granted by Congress has to be seen within the parameters of the Constitution. And the parameters of the Constitution has the Establishment Clause, which has been interpreted to mean if you attack one religion, you are, by association, promoting other religions above it, okay? That's the way it works legally. So let's say somebody said, well, I don't want to violate the Establishment Clause, so I'm not going to prop up these religions. I'm just going to suppress that religion, okay? That's a violation of the Establishment Clause. That's exactly what that immigration policy would be, and it would be challenged in the courts, and it would be held to be exactly that, unconstitutional. Furthermore, he said that he was talking about a ban on all Muslims, okay? So that means that if a Muslim guy let's say he's born in this country and he converts to Islam and he has relatives that live in another country and they're Muslim, they can't come to visit him because there's a complete ban on Muslims. But the Jewish guy can have his relatives from Israel come over and visit him. Okay? Again, equal protection clause. Okay. It would fail again because it would be unconstitutional. The statute that authorizes the president to control which type of people can enter has to be read narrowly within the confines of the Constitution. It's not an open-ended proposition. Now, later he claimed that he was backing off from the all Muslims, and then he used the language, just nations that are involved in terrorism. But that would fail if it went to court also because of his prior statements about banning all Muslims, and then, of course, he would designate all the countries that are primarily Muslims, and that would fail in the courts again. Now, the part about rounding up and deporting the entire population of undocumented workers in America. Okay, let me tell you what this would lead to. Suspicionless interrogation. Oh, by the way, he said he was going to do it in 2 years. And he was going to create a special force to do this. This would be multi-billion-dollar force. I don't know how many tens of thousands of new armed federal officials, boy, that's what we really need, would be running around. But it would lead to suspicionless interrogation and arrests, unjustified and pretextual traffic stops. But this is by experience, by the way, we know this. Warrantless searches of workplace and homes, and door-to-door raids in immigrant neighborhoods, all of which are unconstitutional. But without doing that, you cannot effect a mass roundup and deportation, period, no less than 2 years. When you say it's going to happen within 2 years, we certainly know all of these unconstitutional acts would have to be part of that program. Mass deportations, sorry, constitutional violation under the Due Process Clause. The United States Supreme Court has ruled that immigrants, like other Americans, are entitled to due process. It's not as full or extensive as it is for citizens, but they are entitled to due process, and that includes defending themselves against the claim that they are illegal aliens and asserting that they have a right to be here. And if the immigration judge makes a decision adverse to them, they also have the right to appeal that to United States District Court. That's the law in America. Okay? The catch and release issue, right? He says we're not going to catch immigrants and then let them walk around until their hearing date. Well, the Supreme Court has said that the government needs special justification for immigration detention, such as preventing flight or protecting the community from danger. And the government has to show that those two things are true. They can't say the guy might run away. They have to show that he is a flight risk or she is a flight risk or a danger to the community. He said he would certainly implement a national database requiring registration of U.S. Muslims, violation of the Equal Protection Clause, Establishment Clause, the Freedom of Religion Clause. And I could go on and on. I've actually got quite a bit here, and I'm not going to be able to get to it time-wise.
I'll let you take a couple minutes in my rant to finish up. I know it's an important thing to you. Carry on.
Thank you. Very kind. But the point is, this is violative of the Constitution. And vote for who you want to vote for. I want to make clear that you understand that when people say he loves liberty and he's down with the Constitution, vote for him if you want, but those statements are inaccurate based on the facts. And we'll be back.
Welcome back. And it's time for Bill's rant, which is going to be moved back over to Dave so he can finish.
All right, we are back. Bill, thank you for being so gracious.
You know what really grinds Dave's gears?
Yeah, that's right. We just finished talking about Trump wanted to do this registration of all U.S. Muslims and the fact that that would violate the Equal Protection Clause, the Establishment Clause, and Freedom of Religion Clause. Now, when we get to, he also wants to do, or said he wants to do, warrantless surveillance of mosques. Violates the same three constitutional principles. Okay? Now, I want to stop for a moment at this point and say, if you're a Trump supporter, you may feel that these things are desirable, and perhaps you might find them efficacious. But the point is that your desire to have these things done, these acts done, or the fact that if done, they may be efficacious to things that you think are positive outcomes, does not justify violating the Constitution. Sorry, your desire does not violate the Constitution. Trump also said that, or he used language which, although he didn't use the word force, he used language that indicated he tends to force retail employers during the holiday season to say Merry Christmas. Okay? Now, I know a lot of people think, yeah, that's great. No, it's not. It's a violation of the Constitution. He has said that he intends to order U.S. military personnel to commit war crimes. Most specifically, he intends to, at least he says he intends, to order them to kill the family members of suspected terrorists. Okay? And then when some retired military generals said, whoa, 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 what a horrible position for the commander-in-chief to put his subordinates in, he's demanding that they either disobey him or that they commit war crimes. Trump said, they won't disobey me, they'll do what I say. They're going to commit war crimes because you ordered them to. Wow. It doesn't get any uglier than that. So when people talk about, he loves liberty and he's down with the Constitution, I'm missing on this. Now, small businesses. We have to look at, his support for small business. Don't listen to what he says. Look at what he's done. We know about the effort to take that elderly woman's home under eminent domain, totally egregious. And I've heard Trump supporters say, well, in business, you have to do these. No, you don't. When the attorney comes to you and says, hey, Mr. Trump, we could try and get this woman out by eminent domain. What you do if you're down with liberty in the Constitution, as many of his supporters falsely state, you would look at the attorney and say, I'm appalled that you would try and misuse eminent domain to deprive this property owner of the right to say no. I choose not to sell you my home, Mr. Trump. I'm appalled, Mr. Attorney, that you would suggest misapplying eminent domain. Oh my God, what kind of person are you? Get out of my office. That's what a moral and decent person would do. They wouldn't say, yeah, hey, good gimmick, do it. Small business. There's a private architect, one architect that has his own business. And there's a story that he tells on the internet. And of course, Trump could sue him if it was false, because libel laws do allow you to sue if the material facts are false. And this guy says not only did Trump not pay him the agreed upon price because Trump said to his face, I'm over budget on this, I can't afford to pay you what we agreed upon. But then when they came to an agreement on a lesser amount, and the architect sent in the invoice for the lesser amount, he was then contacted by an attorney for Trump who said, we're not going to pay you that amount either, we'll pay you this amount, which was like a loss for the architect. And the architect said, look, Donald Trump and I face to face, and then subsequently put in writing this other number. He says, oh, I know you're right legally, but my job on behalf of Mr. Trump is to keep you in court so long that you'll eventually give up. So do you want to take this offer? A single-man architectural firm. Talk about small business. Look at what he does, not what he says. Now, lastly, if you don't vote for Trump, you must be a Hillary supporter. I said at the outset, this is not about left, it's not about right. You want to vote for Hillary, vote for Hillary. You want to vote for Trump, you want to vote for Trump. You want to vote for Stein, do it. You want to vote for Johnson, do it. My point in sharing all of this is do it with your head extricated from your sphincter. Do it standing erect with your head up, your eyes and your ears listening, and know what the hell you're doing before you push the button. And don't stand there and say somebody like Hillary is a great candidate. She's one of the biggest pieces of garbage ever to walk the face of this earth. Don't say you're going to vote for Trump because he loves liberty and he's down with the Constitution. Don't do that BS. Hold your nose. If you want to push the damn button, but don't be a liar and a sphincter about it. Bill, thank you for sharing your time with me.
Absolutely. And you know what? Rather than getting into my rant, which was really not that big a deal, let's chat about this.
Okay.
Shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So let's talk about the people that are so gung-ho for one candidate that they're gung-ho with their blinders on. Anybody and everybody in this country who supports Hillary knows as well as the people who don't support her what a criminal, a liar, and a cheater she is.
Yes.
But they're apologists for that stuff. They know
yes.
that Hillary is a total scumbag and that she actually represents the very fabric of what they can't stand.
Yes.
She is an elitist. She lives obviously by her own rules, her own laws. She has helped to cover up more government things and more private things and ruin people's lives. And the mysterious body count that follows the Clintons are now up to about 57 mysterious deaths of people who, more than 45 of them now, were going to testify against them in one way, shape, or form that are all dead. So very strange things in their past. And the people that don't like Hillary know about this. People that do like Hillary know. So their blinders are continuing to narrow so far that they almost can't see it all now.
Yeah.
And we're getting the same thing with supporters of all candidates, Trump, Johnson, everybody.
The way I characterize it concerning just Hillary and Trump is Hillary supporters know how dirty she is and don't care. When I talk to Trump supporters and I lay out this kind of information, the most common response, and this is why I chose to do it, the most common response is, he never said that. Even though you can go pull up the news stories with direct quotes, you can pull up the transcripts from his campaign speeches where he said it, and Trump supporters will look you right in the face. He never said that.
You know, one thing that has happened is Trump has been forced by the powers that be to change what's been so successful up to this point. In this last week, he endorsed scumbag, turncoat, leftist piece of garbage John McCain. Yep. And Paul Ryan.
Yep.
And Mitch McConnell. What a turncoat piece of crap that guy is. He's endorsed all of these people that are the whole reason that the Libertarian Party, the Constitution Party, IAP, and a dozen more exist. Because the moving of the Republican Party further to the left left the people further on the right in a trail. They had to do something. Right. They created all these smaller conservative third parties. And he has now moved that way in endorsing these scumbags because they say, politically speaking, it's the right thing to do. I fully disagree. Now, I'll tell you this. At this point in time, I support Trump, not because I like Donald Trump so much, but because a third-party candidate they still have a long way to go. And I'll give you my idea on how third-party candidates can be much stronger instantly if they'll get together. We'll talk about that in a second. But the main reason is he is an unknown. He might be decent for the country. He might be bad. We know if we get Hillary, it's going to be bad. But because Trump comes from the outside, he comes from business, he's never been involved in the big political shapings with the exception of paying off politicians to get what he wants. He hasn't been corrupted by being part of the inside of that institution for his career.
Let me give you the counter argument.
Sure.
Okay. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a perfect example, and Jimmy Carter, both Washington outsiders who came into office. Okay, both of them accomplished bubkiss in the first 18 to 24 months they were in office because they were playing. They dove into a swimming pool. They didn't know the rules of the swimming pool. Okay, I don't know if you remember. You weren't living in California. I was when Schwarzenegger became governor. Of course, Republican, running in a highly Democratic state, and he did all this Trump stuff. You know, all the stuff he was going to do. And you know how many of his campaign platform got turned into legislation?
Probably none.
Zero, because he didn't know the rules of the game he was playing. He was walking into a culture, a society, the whole political thing, and he didn't know the rules. And I think you're going to see the same exact thing happen to Donald Trump. I think he's going to get in the White House with his personality and his demeanor and the way he likes to do things. He's going to alienate not only 100% of the Democrats, but a goodly percentage of the Republicans. And you're not going to see, the American people are not going to see any of his platform turn into law.
That is also quite likely. The other thing that scares me when it comes to this is Supreme Court appointments. Whoever wins over the next 4 to 8 years, it is likely that 2/3 of the Supreme Court could be replaced. It could be a virtually new Supreme Court with a couple of exceptions.
Yeah. Which is why I would vote for Gary Johnson, because I believe he would appoint judges to the Supreme Court, or nominees to be judges on the Supreme Court, that are true constitutionalists, not political hacks that have been sitting on the bench.
Right, but he'd have to select from a lot of people. Well, I guess he wouldn't. Never mind that. Let's get into the third-party candidates that could actually be viable.
Yeah.
You get all of these smaller, and there's more than a dozen of these smaller, highly conservative, or as they put themselves out there, political organizations, libertarian, IAP, Constitution, such as that. In order for them to be viable, I believe that they should, if they don't just abandon all of the individual parties and put one together, at least they could convention and caucus together. That would put the Libertarians, the Constitutional Party, the IAP, and all of the rest of them, and they could all have one convention and nominate one person to represent all of those various groups. And whoever they put together is going to attract a lot of Republicans like me towards that if we have a lousy nominee. If it's somebody that you got to hold your nose and push a button for, which we've had since McCain and Romney. Terrible options. So imagine if you get all these smaller groups, all these smaller parties together, they have one convention, one nomination process, then you're going to have at least the 15% to get that person on the stage and have a viable shot.
I agree. I'm going to be very interested, speaking of third parties, because, you know, Jill Stein is polling very well, as Gary Johnson is polling very well. Of course, very well for a third party is a relative term.
Sure.
But I would, you know, they talk about throwing away your vote. You know, I don't believe that voting for a third party is throwing away your vote, but if we were to go with that, I'd rather throw away my vote than throw away my principles. But I'm going to be very interested to see on November 5th, when the final numbers come out, exactly how these third-party candidates did, because my prediction is they're going to get more of the popular vote than at any time in American history.
Very well may be. However, it's Electoral College, as we know who elects the president.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back. Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow. Welcome back. We're here. Segment 4. We read your emails, DavidBillShow@gmail.com, and
clearly you caught us in the middle of something.
at totalyunprepared.info. But we're talking. We're going to do the carpet update here, right? So here's a picture of the carpet. Not only next to the carpet, which is still laying here, there's a whole pile of about a half a dozen lights, and these are these big fluorescent lights. Like right now, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 lights just shining on us, right? So, and they are, you know, more box style lights, you know, bigger than what I'm showing, but, you know, this is about
like 24 by 10.
Yeah. So these are like 4-foot and 5-foot ballasts of these older style lights that were picked up at an auction, of the type that have this really loud hum, and they're supposed to go into a studio with a hum.
But I don't know that they have a hum. They create a hum in the software and hardware that's used to record.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go. And we're talking about the software in the booth. And we're kind of bad guys for doing this, just diming this whole thing out. It works, but so does my Pentium 1, right? I have to use Windows 95 as a little kind of,
Yeah.
It's like, that's a little too modern. I want to go back to 3.1.
Yeah, well,
you know?
what they're using to record all this stuff is pretty much the studio equivalent of Windows 95.
Right, and it's just past the reel-to-reel. So, anyhow, there we are. All right, so we're going to get back into some of these other stories that we missed in segment 1.
Right.
So, one of them is
Miami,
Florida. We have a caseworker who is he's just outside of this mental care home, I believe it is, in a residential neighborhood.
A couple blocks down.
Yeah. And this kid got out. Now, when I say kid, he's a teenager, but he's a very large individual.
Yes.
Probably 6 foot tall and at least a couple hundred pounds. But he's autistic, severely autistic. He's walked around. He's got a toy fire truck about yay big. Someone calls and says that there's somebody walking down the street with a gun.
Sitting in the middle of the road. He actually
Sitting in the road.
He just sat down on the road.
Yeah, just sat down in one of the traffic lanes in a neighborhood, right? On a little residential street. And said that he had a gun. So the cops show up. By this time, the caseworker comes out there, and they've got guns, AR-15s pointed at him.
Which I should say, the people who run the home for the troubled kids, the director said he sent that particular guy because he was the best therapist they have. He's like the cat's meow.
Right.
So they sent their best guy. All right.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so he shows up, and he's trying to convince the young man, who was, I believe, 16, to come back with him to the home. And, you know, of course, in a case like that, you always want to try and convince them without having to use any sort of force. You want to talk them into it. And while he's in the process of this, up shows the cavalry, right? All the cops show up. They get out with AR-15s, and they're now pointing the AR-15s. They order the therapist to get on the ground. The boy is already sitting on the ground. So the therapist lies on his back. He's got his hands out like this. You've probably all seen the video of it. And I watched the video, and he's communicating in an abundantly clear and loud voice. He's saying, he is mentally disabled, or whatever the term the therapist used. I am a therapist from the home, the troubled homes down the street. I was sent here to bring him back to the home. He doesn't have a gun. He's got a toy truck in his hand. I don't have a gun. He doesn't have a gun. Please put your guns down. No need for any guns. No one here is armed. Okay.
So what ends up happening in the process of this discussion, one of the cops with an AR-15 blazes off 3 rounds and ends up striking the caseworker in the thigh with one of those rounds.
Right. Now,
why any guns were there, I don't know.
Yeah,
okay, so I get it. You come up, you got guns. Okay, but why the safety was off and the finger was on the trigger shows a lack of training. That's not the way it should have been.
Yeah, now, I watched the video myself, and the proximity of the police to the young man, they should have readily been able to tell it was a toy truck, not a gun.
Sure.
I mean, they were probably max 60 feet away. Okay. And he's playing with it.
He's sitting there like nothing is going on.
It's not like he's concealing
not part of this.
it. He's got it right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get it. Your cops, they say that you got a gun. It's a couple of evil black guys, so you better pull out your gun before you can see. The whole thing sounds reasonable. The kid's playing there. I'm a caseworker. Okay, you know what? We're going to have you roll over on your stomach. We're going to hook you up. We're going to search. If everything's cool, we're going to let you go and go about your business. We're going to make sure we're straight. Everybody's cool, everybody's safe, right? That's the mantra for doing this. Instead, Johnny douchebag, safety off, finger on the trigger, launches 3 rounds, 2 of which miss.
Yeah, where'd they go?
Yeah, and one of them hits the guy in the thigh, which it troubles me that anybody'd even be in that situation, safety off, finger on the trigger, when you don't see a gun.
Yeah.
Okay, perhaps the way I would have been there, the way that I would train people and have trained more than 10,000 students in my career, thumb on top of the selector switch, finger straight, ready to remove that selector switch, collapse onto the trigger if need be. It's that fast. It's that fast. So that's a training issue.
If you practice.
Yeah. If you practice like 100 times, that's all you have to do.
Now, the other thing is, after they shot him and rolled him on his face and handcuffed him, okay.
On the hot pavement.
On the hot, summertime hot pavement. He says, "Why did you shoot me?" And the cop responds, "I don't know."
Right.
And later, like the next day, the union chief comes out and says it wasn't racial. He was trying to shoot the boy.
Why? Because he had a truck?
It's insane.
It is totally stupid. And that guy just put his foot in his mouth. That just made it a whole lot worse.
When I first saw the story, I thought it had to be an ND. And then I saw it was 3 shots, and I realized it was not an ND. Negligent discharge, firing the weapon you don't intend to.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was until it was 3.
Yeah, it's not an accident. That was pure
So
negligence.
the punchline to all this is that the therapist, quite appropriately, and I think everybody knew this, has now filed a federal lawsuit against the police department and the officer who shot him.
Of course.
Yeah.
So this takes us into our next couple of cases, both out of Chicago. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's start with the new one.
The newest one. Which one? Oh, the car chase.
Car chase, yep.
Bunch of cops flying around residential neighborhood, chasing, I believe, an 18-year-old kid who stole a car. I should say unarmed, although, of course, the cops wouldn't know that to begin with. So what happens is you see a video, dash cam. There's like 12 different videos from body cams and dash cams. And you see the cop flying down the street, and then the guy comes around the corner, and it's a little tiny residential street. The inevitable happened. Boom, they front end each other. The cop gets out of his car. While he's getting out of the car, the guy backs up and drives by the cop. Now, the cop does not begin hosing the car down when the car is approaching, which arguably would be acceptable. Okay. What he does is he starts shooting after the car is lateral to him, which clearly there is no threat to the officer from that car once the car is beside him and moving on, right? He starts hosing the car down. The car goes on behind him. It's in a residential neighborhood, and the cop comes out, press. He like dumps like 12 rounds at a fleeing car, okay? And then there's this big chase in the neighborhood. And they finally catch the guy, and turns out he's dead. One shot through the back. And of course, the body cams, some of the body cams we would have liked to have been operating that would have really pulled this story together, were not.
They'd been turned off.
They'd been turned off. Yep. So we have an unarmed 18-year-old, and this goes the whole thing about Black Lives Matter, an unarmed black 18-year-old killed by cops, and it looks very, very much like it was an illegal shooting. Because when your life is not at risk, or the community's life is not at risk, or your partner's life is not at risk, you may not shoot a fleeing suspect unless you can articulate that there is significant reason to believe that allowing him to flee, he's going to then physically harm or kill another member, others in public, which clearly this would not be the case. He's fleeing, trying not to get busted for car theft.
Yeah, keep in mind, a lot of people put car theft into this really huge, grandiose category. It's a property crime. Yeah. It's a property crime. When I was a cop, they taught us, if you come across a stolen car, that you do a felony vehicle stop, and they're all
line your backup up before you turn your lights on. Yeah,
it's a friggin' property crime, for goodness sake. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. But there is the other one that came out. It came out just not quite a year ago. It was November of 2015. It came out.
Yes.
When October 14 is when it happened with the 16-year-old black kid that was essentially just gunned down and murdered.
The court finally ordered them to release the footage.
They did, and that cop, inevitably last November, was charged with first-degree murder. Still awaiting trial.
What he did, though. He had a prior encounter with this guy at Burger King or something a couple hours earlier. And apparently he didn't like the outcome of that. The officer apparently felt the boy had disrespected him or something. And in the video, what you see, and now there was reports that the young man had a knife. Okay?
Right.
But in the video that the court ordered released, it looked to me like the kid was probably about 14 feet away from the officers. And the officers already had their guns out, which takes away the whole tooler thing because that's not applicable. And
he was moving away from them.
Right, he was moving away, and they ordered him to do something. I forget what it was, show us your hands, turn around, whatever. And he kind of did like a little pirouette, okay? Like he was just like, la, 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 whatever, dude. And the cop dumped an entire magazine into him. Just boom, 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 and I'm not exaggerating. The Chicago PD's own internal affairs investigation says he dumped his entire magazine. Again, this kid probably weighed $1.50 soaking wet. Dumped his entire magazine into the kid. The kid didn't have a gun or anything like that.
No, and We also have a case where the footage from the earlier incident at the Burger King, some cops went in there to look at it. They went in the next morning, and the cops, it would appear, took it. So this guy has been charged last November.
Hang on. When internal affairs investigators went in the next day,
it wasn't.
They found that the critical 18 minutes when they had an encounter with this young man at the Burger King were missing. The whole rest of it was there, just the critical 18 minutes.
Right, exactly. So this cop obviously suspended without pay. However, the union hired him to be a maintenance man at the union building, and they say they've done this for at least 100 cops before, where it's not on suspension with pay, suspension without pay, pending termination.
Yeah, without pay, normally.
While facing murder one charges.
Yeah, without pay normally means the agency is very, very confident that you actually did the dirt.
Yes. Yeah, very confident. And the police commissioner lost his job. There's a new guy in there and all this good stuff. So that's the latest on this one is that the FBI is in there investigating if other cops went in there and tampered with evidence. So we're hoping to see some of those heads roll.
All right, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Have a good week.
Bye-bye.